The Silver Spoon, the rain hammered against the tall windows of the Silver Spoon, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants where reservations required both money and connections. Inside, crystal chandeliers cast warm light over white tablecloths and gleaming silverware. The dinner crowd consisted of business executives, celebrities, and old money families who considered places like this their second dining room. Jasper Montgomery pushed through the heavy oak doors without, acknowledging the hostess who rushed to greet him. Water dripped from his expensive coat onto the marble floor as he strode toward his usual corner table. His jaw was clenched tight, his eyes hard. The Next Gen Industries board meeting had not gone as planned. 3 board members had questioned his aggressive expansion strategy, suggesting he was losing touch with the company's original mission. Him, losing touch. He had built NextGen from a garage, startup into a billion-dollar tech empire in just 15 years. An unwelcome interruption, Harold, the restaurant manager, appeared at his side immediately. The man had that practiced smile that expensive restaurants trained into their staff. The one that said, "Your money made you special. Mr. Montgomery, wonderful to see you again. Your usual table is ready." Jasper grunted a response and sat down heavily. He pulled out his phone, already composing an email to his legal team about removing those troublesome board members. The rain outside seemed to match his mood perfectly, dark and aggressive. "I'll send someone right over," Harold said, disappearing quickly. Meeting Claudia minutes passed before Jasper looked up impatiently. Where was his server? He was about to signal Harold when a young woman approached his table. She wore the standard black uniform of the restaurant staff, her dark hair pulled back neatly. What struck him immediately was her posture. She carried herself with a quiet dignity that seemed out of place for someone in her position. "Good evening, sir. My name is Claudia, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." Her voice was calm and professional, but there was something in her eyes that suggested she saw more than most people did. Jasper barely glanced at her. "I don't have time for the special speech. Bring me the ribeye, medium rare, and a bottle of the Camus Cabernet. Fast." "Of course. Would you like any sides with that?" "Whatever. Just make it quick." She nodded and turned to leave, but Jasper found himself irritated by her composed response. He was used to people either cowering before him or trying too hard to please him. Her calm neutrality felt like indifference. And tonight, already raw from the board meeting, that bothered him. "The first strike, you know," he called after her, making his voice loud enough that nearby tables could hear. "In my company, slow service means unemployment. I hope you move faster than you talk." Claudia stopped and turned back slowly. Several other diners looked over, curious about the commotion. The restaurant's usual gentle murmur of conversation had quieted. "I assure you, sir, your order will be prepared as quickly as our kitchen allows. The ribeye alone takes about 18 minutes to cook properly." "I'm not paying these prices for lectures about cooking time," Jasper snapped. "I'm paying for efficiency." That's probably a concept someone in your position wouldn't understand. A flash of something crossed Claudia's face, but it wasn't anger or hurt. It was closer to pity, which only made Jasper more irritated. "I understand efficiency quite well, actually," she said evenly. "Sometimes the most efficient path isn't the fastest one. Taking time to do something right often saves time in the long run." An unexpected response, Jasper leaned back in his chair, studying her with narrowed eyes. "Is that so? And where did you learn such wisdom? Waitress school?" "From watching people who mistake speed for progress," Claudia replied. There was no edge to her voice, just statement of fact. "And from my grandmother, who built a successful life with very little money, but tremendous patience and strategy." "Strategy," Jasper repeated mockingly. "That's rich. What would you know about strategy? Your biggest decision each day is probably which tables to serve first." Now Beverly, a senior waitress who had been working at the Silver Spoon for 20 years, paused near their table, concern on her face. She knew Jasper was an important customer, one whose complaints could cost jobs, but Claudia remained steady. "Actually, sir, strategy is about resource allocation, timing, and understanding what truly matters. Whether you're running a company or managing a shift, the principles are similar. The difference is just scale." Jasper felt his face flush. Who was this waitress to lecture him about business principles? The difference is that I make decisions worth millions of dollars. Your decisions are worth minimum wage. Words that cut deep money doesn't determine the value of a decision, Claudia said quietly. My grandmother used to say that a poor person who chooses kindness over bitterness shows more wisdom than a rich person who chooses cruelty because they can afford it. The words landed like a slap. Several nearby diners had stopped eating entirely now, watching the exchange. Harold appeared at the edge of the dining room, looking concerned but uncertain whether to intervene with such an important client. Jasper felt something uncomfortable twist in his chest. When had he become cruel? He thought of himself as tough, demanding, excellence-driven. But cruel? He pushed the thought away angrily. Your grandmother. Sounds like someone who had to tell herself pleasant stories to accept her. Failures, he said coldly. My grandmother. Raised 3 children alone after my grandfather died, put all of them through college, and died surrounded by people who genuinely loved her, Claudia replied. Her voice remained calm, but it gained an edge of steel. She considered that success. She also taught me that the way you treat people who can do nothing for you reveals who you truly are. The room shifts. An older woman at the next table, dressed in an elegant Chanel suit, nodded approvingly. Her companion, a distinguished man in his 60s, was watching Jasper with an expression of distaste. Jasper recognized them suddenly. The Blackwells. Thomas Blackwell sat on the board of directors at Manhattan General Hospital, and his wife Patricia was a major figure in charitable circles. They were exactly the kind of people whose good opinion mattered in his social circles. He felt trapped. If he backed down now, he would look weak. But Claudia's words had struck something deep. And the way Patricia Blackwell was nodding at the young waitress made him realize he was not winning this exchange in anyone's eyes but his own. I came here for dinner. Not philosophy from the help, Jasper said, trying to regain control of the conversation. And I'll go place your order, Claudia said simply. And sir, for what it's worth, I hope whatever is making you unhappy tonight gets better. Everyone deserves to find peace. She walked away before he could respond, leaving Jasper sitting alone with the eyes of half the dining room on him. Patricia Blackwell was whispering to her husband. A younger couple nearby was looking at Jasper with open disapproval. The uncomfortable wait herald approached cautiously. Mr. Montgomery, I apologize if there was any discomfort. Bring my wine, Jasper muttered. He tried to return to his phone, but he couldn't concentrate. Claudia's words kept echoing in his mind. The way you treat people who can do nothing for you reveals who you truly are. His grandmother used to say something similar, back before she passed away when he was in college. Back before he became obsessed with proving himself, with building something that could never be taken away, with winning at all costs. When had winning become more important than being decent? The wine arrived, brought by Beverly rather than Claudia. She poured it silently, her movements quick and nervous. Jasper took a sip, barely tasting it. Through the kitchen doors, he could see Claudia talking with another server, her expression composed. She had already moved on from their confrontation, apparently unbothered by his rudeness. That bothered him more than if she had been upset. It suggested that his opinion meant nothing to her, that his power and money impressed her not at all. In his world, everyone wanted something from him. Everyone could be motivated by money or access or opportunity. But Claudia had looked at him like he was just another person, and not a particularly impressive one. An unexpected discovery: his meal arrived, perfectly prepared. He ate mechanically, not really tasting the expensive steak. Around him, the restaurant's normal rhythm resumed. Conversations picked up again. But Jasper noticed that several people were still glancing his way, and none of the looks were admiring. As he ate, he watched Claudia working. She moved between tables with quiet efficiency, and he noticed something. Every person she served smiled at her. She had a brief, laughing exchange with an elderly man dining alone. She knelt down to speak at eye level with a child at a family's table, making the little girl giggle. With Patricia and Thomas Blackwell, she engaged in what appeared to be genuine conversation, and Patricia actually squeezed her hand affectionately before she left their table. This waitress, this woman he had dismissed and insulted, had something he suddenly realized he lacked. People liked her. Actually liked her, not because of what she could do for them, but simply because of who she was. When had someone last looked at him with genuine warmth, instead of calculation? The weight of wealth. Jasper finished his meal and signaled for the check. Beverly brought it quickly, clearly hoping to speed his departure. He added his usual generous tip, not because he felt generous, but because that was what people expected of him. As he stood to leave, he found himself looking for Claudia, though he wasn't sure why. She was at the server station writing something in a notebook. Not an order pad, he realized, but an actual notebook. She was concentrating intently, completely absorbed in whatever she was writing. What's she doing? He asked Beverly, who was clearing his table. Beverly hesitated, then said quietly, "Homework. She takes online classes. Economics degree." Jasper felt something shift inside him. This woman he had dismissed as just a waitress was studying economics. Working full-time in a demanding job while putting herself through school, showing more determination and work ethic than half the privileged kids he hired who had their education handed to them. Leaving changed as he walked toward the door. Jasper paused near the Blackwell's table. Thomas looked up at him coolly. "Montgomery," he said, his tone noticeably lacking its usual warmth. "Thomas." "Patricia," Jasper acknowledged. "What?" "That young woman you spoke to earlier," Patricia said directly. "Claudia. She's quite remarkable. Reminds me of myself at that age. Working 3 jobs to put myself through school. Determined to make something of myself." Jasper had not known that about Patricia Blackwell, who now ran a foundation that distributed millions in scholarships. "We've been sponsoring her studies," Patricia continued. "It's rare to find someone with both intelligence and character these days. Wouldn't you agree, Jasper?" The emphasis on the last question made her meaning clear. She had witnessed his behavior and found it wanting. Indeed, Jasper managed. He left the restaurant feeling worse than when he had arrived. The rain had stopped, but the streets were wet and dark. His driver pulled up immediately, but Jasper waved him off.
"I'll walk."
He needed air. He needed to think. Because Claudia Rivers, a waitress he had tried to belittle, had somehow held up a mirror that showed him something he did not like. A man who had gained the whole world but lost something essential along the way. A man who had forgotten that money and power were tools, not measures of worth. A man who had become exactly what he once despised. Someone who looked down on others to feel superior. As Jasper walked through the wet streets of Manhattan, past people hurrying home, past shop windows and street vendors, he realized that for the first time in years, he was truly questioning everything. He had built his life around, and it had taken a waitress with wisdom beyond her years to make him see it. The return 5 days passed. Before Jasper returned to the Silver Spoon, 5 days in, which he found himself distracted during meetings. Staring out his office window at the city below, thinking about Claudia's words, he had tried to dismiss the encounter as meaningless. The rambling of someone who did not understand the real world of high-stakes business, but her face kept appearing in his mind. That calm expression as she spoke truths he had spent years avoiding. His assistant Jennifer had noticed the change. "Are you feeling all right, Mr. Montgomery?" She had asked yesterday when he absently approved a proposal he would normally have torn apart with questions. "Fine," he had muttered. But it was not true. On Thursday evening, he told his driver to take him to the Silver Spoon again. He told himself it was just for dinner, that he happened to like their food. But as the car pulled up to the familiar entrance, his heart rate increased slightly. And he knew he was lying to himself. A different entrance this time. Jasper held the door for an elderly couple entering behind him. The small act felt foreign, but right. The hostess, a young woman named Amanda, greeted him with her professional smile. "Good evening, Mr. Montgomery. Your usual table?" Actually, Jasper heard himself say, "What about that table by the window? A change might be nice." Amanda's eyebrows rose slightly in surprise, but she nodded. "Of course, right this way." As he followed her through the dining room, his eyes searched for Claudia. He spotted her near the back, speaking with Harold. When she glanced up and their eyes met, he saw a flicker of recognition, but no particular emotion. She simply nodded politely and returned to her conversation. Jasper sat at his new table, feeling oddly nervous. What was he doing? Why did it matter if she served him tonight or not? Beverly's wisdom. Beverly appeared at his table with a water glass and menu. "Good evening, Mr. Montgomery. Claudia's on the other side tonight, but I'll be happy to take care of you." "Actually," Jasper said, surprising himself again, "would it be possible for Claudia to serve my table? If she is not too busy, of course." Beverly studied him carefully, her experienced eyes assessing his intentions. After a moment, she nodded slowly. "I'll ask her." He watched as Beverly approached Claudia and spoke quietly. Claudia looked over at him, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded and said something to Beverly. As she walked toward his table, Jasper found himself straightening his tie nervously. "Good evening, sir," Claudia said professionally. "Beverly said you requested me specifically. Is there something wrong with your usual server?" "No, nothing wrong. I just wanted to apologize." The words came out before he had fully formed them in his mind. Claudia's eyes widened slightly, genuine surprise crossing her face for the first time. "Apologize? For last week? For how I spoke to you? It was unnecessary and cruel." Jasper met her eyes directly. "You were right about what you said. All of it." An honest conversation. Claudia was quiet for a moment, studying him. Then she pulled out her order pad, but her posture had softened slightly. "Apology accepted. Now, would you like to hear tonight's specials?" "Please, sit down for a moment," Jasper said, gesturing to the empty chair across from him. "Just for a minute, sir. I'm working. I'll make sure Harold knows," I insisted. "Please." After a brief hesitation, Claudia sat, perching on the edge of the chair as if ready to leave at any moment. Several nearby diners watched curiously, including Patricia Blackwell, who was dining here again with a different companion. "Beverly mentioned you're taking classes," Jasper began. "Economics." "Yes. Online program through Columbia. It takes longer this way, but I can work full-time while studying. That must be difficult." Claudia shrugged slightly. "Difficult things are usually worth doing. My grandmother used to say that nothing worthwhile comes easy." "You mention your grandmother often. She must have been important to you." For the first time, Claudia's professional mask slipped, and Jasper saw genuine emotion in her eyes. "She was everything. My parents died in a car accident when I was 7. My grandmother took me in, raised me on a secretary's pension. She died 3 years ago, right before I started working here." Stories exchanged. "I'm sorry," Jasper said, and meant it. "She sounds like she was an exceptional woman." She was. "She never had much money, but she taught me that wealth and richness are different things. You can be wealthy in love, in friendship, in purpose. Money is just one form of wealth, and often not the most important one." Jasper leaned back in his chair, feeling that uncomfortable twist in his chest again. "My grandmother said something similar once. She died when I was in college, back when I was still just a kid with big dreams and no money." "What changed?" Claudia asked softly. The question was simple but profound. What had changed? Jasper thought back to that young man he had been, full of idealism, determined to create technology that would help people. "Not just make profits, my father," he said slowly, words coming that he had not spoken aloud in years. He was a good man, worked his whole life as an accountant. Never made much money, but he was happy. Then the company he worked for collapsed in a scandal. He lost his job, his pension, his savings. He had a heart attack 6 months later. Claudia's expression softened with understanding. "And you decided that would never happen to you." "I decided that money was the only security in this world. That if I was rich enough, powerful enough, nothing could hurt me." Jasper laughed bitterly. "Funny how that works out. I'm richer than my father ever dreamed of being, but I'm not sure I'm any happier. I certainly don't have the relationships he had. People loved him. Me. They just want things from me." "It's a challenge that's not completely true," Claudia said. "People will meet the expectations you set for them. If you treat them like they only want your money, that's all they'll show you. And if I treated them differently, then you might be surprised." They sat in silence for a moment. Harold was watching from across the room, looking confused but not intervening, since Patricia Blackwell had caught his eye, and shaken her head slightly, signaling him to let the conversation continue. "Can I ask you something?" Jasper said. "Why are you working here? With your intelligence, your work ethic, you could be doing something more aligned with your studies." Claudia smiled slightly. "I tried. I applied to 15 financial firms last year. None of them would interview someone without a degree, regardless of what I knew or what I could do. So I work here, save money, finish my degree, and wait for my opportunity. In the meantime, I do what I can." "What do you mean?" "I volunteer at the Riverside Community Center 3 nights a week, teaching basic financial literacy to people who need it most. People like my grandmother, who worked hard their whole lives but never understood how money really works, who got taken advantage of by predatory lenders and scams." Jasper felt something shift inside him, a crack in the walls he had built around himself. "That's remarkable." "It's necessary," Claudia corrected. "The system is rigged against people who start with nothing. Someone needs to help even the playing field a little." An unexpected proposal before he could think better of it, Jasper said. "I'd like to see that." "The community center? Your classes? Would you let me come observe sometime?" Claudia looked at him with open skepticism. "Why would you want to do that?" "'Cause I think I've been living in a bubble, a very expensive, very isolated bubble." Oh. "And because you're right about me. I have forgotten what matters. Maybe it's time I remembered." She studied him carefully, as if trying to determine if he was sincere or playing some game. Finally, she said, "We meet Tuesday and Thursday nights, 7 to 9. Riverside Community Center on Amsterdam Avenue. If you come, you work. We always need extra hands with the mock budgeting exercises. I'll be there Tuesday." Claudia stood up, resuming her professional demeanor. "Now, I really do need to take your order, or Harold will have both our heads," Jasper ordered, and this time he actually tasted his food when it arrived. As Claudia moved through her shift, he watched her interact with other tables, seeing now what he had missed before. She had a gift for making people feel valued, whether they were tipping big or small, whether they were powerful or not. When he paid his bill that night, he added an even larger tip than usual, but this time with a note for your education fund. "You're going to change the world someday. Thank you for starting with me." Tuesday night, the following Tuesday, Jasper found himself standing outside the Riverside Community Center at 10 minutes to 7. The building was old, but well-maintained, with cheerful murals painted on the exterior walls. Through the windows, he could see people gathering in what looked like a classroom setup. He was wearing jeans and a simple sweater, the most casual clothes he owned. His driver had looked at him strangely when he gave the address, and Jennifer had rescheduled 3 meetings when he announced he would be unavailable Tuesday and Thursday evenings for the foreseeable future. Taking a deep breath, Jasper pushed open the door. Inside, the center hummed with activity. Children played in one area while adults gathered in another. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the sound of conversation and laughter. It felt alive in a way his sterile corporate offices never did. "You actually came." He turned to find Claudia standing behind him, wearing jeans and a volunteer t-shirt, her hair in a ponytail. She looked younger, more relaxed than at the restaurant. "I said I would." She smiled, a real smile that transformed her whole face. "Come on then. Let me introduce you to everyone. And fair warning, Mrs. Patterson will probably try to set you up with her daughter. New perspectives." The next 2 hours opened Jasper's eyes in ways he had not anticipated. At the people attending Claudia's financial literacy class were not looking for handouts or get-rich-quick schemes. They were hardworking individuals, many holding down multiple jobs, trying to understand how to break cycles of debt, how to save for their children's futures, how to navigate a system that seemed designed to keep them down. Claudia taught with patience and clarity, breaking down complex concepts into understandable pieces. She used real-world examples from their lives, not abstract theories. And she did it all with respect, never talking down to anyone, never making them feel stupid for not knowing. Jasper found himself paired with a man named Raymond, a construction worker trying to understand credit scores after being denied a home loan. As they worked through a budgeting exercise together, Raymond talked about his 3 kids, his hopes of buying a small house, his fear that he would never get ahead no matter how hard he worked. The system feels rigged, Raymond said, echoing Claudia's earlier words. Like it's designed for people who already have money. Jasper had built his fortune in that very system, benefiting from its structure. But sitting across from Raymond, seeing the exhaustion in his eyes from working 10-hour days, he could not dismiss the observation as mere complaining. It is rigged, Jasper admitted quietly. I've never had to think about it because I was on the winning side. But you're right. Raymond looked surprised that this stranger agreed with him. So what do we do about it? The question hung in the air. What could they do about it? The seed of change after class ended. Jasper helped Claudia clean up, stacking chairs and wiping down tables. The simple physical work felt oddly satisfying. Thank you for coming, Claudia said as they worked, and for actually participating. Some volunteers show up once for the photo opportunity and never come back. I'll be here Thursday, Jasper said. I've been thinking. Your students, they need more than just classes, right? They need access to the same tools and opportunities that wealthy people have. True, but how do you create that access? Jasper paused, an idea forming. What if there was a program, something that provided not just education but actual capital? Small loans with fair terms, mentorship, connections, a bridge between where they are and where they want to be? Claudia stopped wiping the table, looking at him intently. That would require significant funding, and someone with the connections to make it legitimate. I have both of those things. Jasper, she said, using his first name for the first. Time. Are you serious? Because these people don't need empty promises. They've had enough of those. He met her eyes directly. I'm serious. I don't know exactly how yet, but I want to build something that actually helps. Not for tax breaks or publicity, but because it's the right thing to do. A new partnership forms over the next few weeks. A pattern emerged. Jasper volunteered at the community center twice a week, and each time he learned more about the challenges faced by people living paycheck to paycheck. He met single mothers working 3 jobs, recent immigrants trying to build new lives, elderly, people who had worked hard all their lives but had nothing to show for it. And each time, his comfortable assumptions about how the world worked crumbled a little more. He and Claudia began meeting for coffee after Thursday classes, sketching out ideas for a program that could make a real difference. Claudia brought insight into what people actually needed. Jasper brought knowledge of how to navigate financial systems and access capital. We should call it the Bridge Fund, Claudia suggested one evening, drawing diagrams on a napkin, because it bridges the gap between poverty and opportunity. The Bridge Fund, Jasper repeated, liking how it sounded. With 3 components: financial education, small business loans with mentorship, and emergency assistance for unexpected crises. And it has to be run by people from the community, Claudia insisted. Not wealthy board members who mean well, but don't understand the reality, Jasper nodded, accepting the implicit criticism. A month ago, he would have bristled at such a suggestion. Now he saw the wisdom in it, personal transformations as the weeks passed. People at NextGen Industries noticed changes in their CEO. He started saying good morning to the cleaning staff, learned the names of the security guards. A new policy requiring fair wages for all contracted workers, not just minimum legal requirements. Some board members grumbled about unnecessary expenses. Jasper overruled them without hesitation. He also reached out to his sister Amanda, from whom he had been estranged for 5 years after an argument about money. The conversation was awkward. At first, both of them unsure how to bridge years of silence. But Jasper apologized for putting his pride and his work ahead of family, and slowly they began to rebuild their relationship. What's gotten into you? Amanda asked during their 3rd lunch together. You seem different, softer somehow, but in a good way. I met someone who reminded me who I used to be, Jasper said, before I forgot that people matter more than profit margins. Amanda smiled. I like this version of my brother better. Don't lose him again. Question of feelings on Thursday. Evening, after class ended, and they were having their usual coffee, Claudia said quietly, Can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why are you really doing all this? The volunteering, the bridge fund, the changes at your company. Is it guilt? Penance? Jasper considered the question carefully. At first, maybe it was. Guilt over how I treated you. Shame at who I had become. But now he paused, searching for the right words. Oh, it's because I feel alive again, like I have a purpose beyond just making money. And because spending time with you, seeing the world through your eyes, has been the best thing that's happened to me in years. Claudia looked down at her coffee cup, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. Jasper, I need you to know that I didn't befriend you because of your money or what you could do for the program. I know that. It's actually the reason I trust you. She met his eyes. I also need you to know that I care about you, as a person, not as a donor or a project. And that scares me a little because our lives are so different. Jasper's heart beat faster. Different doesn't have to mean incompatible. You've changed my life, Claudia. You've made me want to be better, do better. That's not nothing. No, she agreed softly. It's not nothing. They sat in comfortable silence, a new understanding settling between them. 6 months later, the morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the newly opened Bridge Fund headquarters. A renovated building in a neighborhood that had seen better days but was slowly revitalizing. The space was nothing like NextGen's sleek corporate offices. Instead of marble and glass, there were warm wooden floors and walls painted in welcoming colors. Photos of community members lined the hallways. Faces of people whose lives had been changed by access to education and fair financial services. Jasper stood in the main meeting room, watching as Claudia reviewed files with Raymond, who now worked as a community outreach coordinator for the fund. In 6 months, Raymond had not only fixed his credit and secured a home loan, but had become passionate about helping others navigate the same challenges he had faced. The Bridge Fund had exceeded even Jasper's optimistic projections. They had helped 47 families start small businesses, provided emergency assistance to over 200 households, and their financial literacy classes now serve 300 people weekly across 4 community centers. But the numbers, impressive as they were not what made Jasper feel fulfilled. It was the stories. The single mother who started a catering business and could now work from home with her children, the elderly man who avoided eviction through emergency assistance and budgeting help, the young woman who learned about investing and started her first retirement account. Lives changed. Hope restored. Dignity preserved. A full-circle moment, Mr. Montgomery. Jasper turned to find Jennifer, his assistant, standing in the doorway. She now split her time between NextGen and the Bridge Fund, having enthusiastically embraced the nonprofit's mission. The journalist from the Times is here for your interview. Thank you, Jennifer. Show her to my office, please. As he walked down the hall, Claudia caught up with him. She now served as executive director of the Bridge Fund. Having completed her economics degree online while building the organization from the ground up, her intelligence and dedication had proven even more remarkable than Jasper had initially recognized. Nervous about the interview? She asked, should I be? Well, they're going to ask about the change in you. How a ruthless tech billionaire became a philanthropist focused on economic justice. That story plays pretty dramatically in the media. Jasper smiled. Let them write what they want. I know the truth. I didn't become anything new. I just remembered who I was supposed to be all along. The interviewer Rachel Kim from the New York Times sat in Jasper's modest office, recording device between them. Unlike his lavish corner office at NextGen, this space was simple but comfortable. A few plants, photos of Bridge Fund success stories, and a framed quote from Claudia's grandmother. Wealth without wisdom is just money. Wisdom without wealth is true richness. Mr. Montgomery, 6 months ago you were known as one of the most aggressive CEOs in the tech industry. Now you've restructured your company, started a nonprofit focused on economic equality, and by all accounts, completely changed your approach to business and life. What happened? Jasper leaned back in his chair, considering how to answer. I met someone who showed me what I had become, and I didn't like what I saw. That someone being Claudia Rivers, now your executive director? Yes. Claudia had the courage to hold up a mirror and the wisdom to show me a better way. She's the real story here, not me. Rachel smiled slightly. She's declined to be interviewed, actually. Said the focus should be on the people the Bridge Fund serves, not on personalities. That sounds like her. Walk me through what changed, specifically. What was the moment you decided to transform your life? The honest story. Jasper thought back to that night at the Silver Spoon, the rain hammering the windows, his arrogance and cruelty. The memory still made him wince. I was horrible to her, he said honestly. She was my waitress at an expensive restaurant. I treated her like she was less than human because I was having a bad day and I could. She responded with grace and wisdom that humbled me. She said something I couldn't forget. The way you treat people who can do nothing for you reveals who you truly are. And who were you? Someone I didn't want to be. Someone who had confused wealth with worth, power with purpose. I had everything money could buy, but nothing that actually mattered. Rachel nodded, making notes. Some critics have suggested this is all a publicity stunt. That you're building a public image for political aspirations or to counter negative press about next-gen's labor practices. Jasper had expected this question. Those critics are welcome to volunteer at our community centers and talk to the people we serve. This isn't about my image. It's about creating real change. Yes, I restructured NextGen to treat workers better and focus on ethical practices. That hurt our short-term profits and made some shareholders angry. If this were just for publicity, I would have chosen easier, more visible charity work. The true measure. What would you say to other wealthy individuals who might be inspired by your example? Jasper considered carefully. I'd say that real wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in lives touched, in communities strengthened, and opportunities created. I'd say that success without purpose is hollow, and power without responsibility is dangerous. And I'd say that the best investment you can make is in human potential. He paused, then continued with more emotion. I'd also say that it's never too late to change. 6 months ago, I was miserable, alone, and convinced that my way was the only way. Today, I have genuine friendships, a purpose beyond profit, and a sense of peace I never knew was possible. I have less money than I did because I'm giving more away, but I'm infinitely richer. Rachel smiled. That's quite a transformation. And what about your relationship with Ms. Rivers? There's been speculation in social circles about whether this is more than a professional partnership. Jasper felt his face warm slightly. Claudia is my friend, my partner in this work, and someone I admire more than anyone I've ever known. Beyond that, her personal life is her own business. Evening return after, the interview concluded. Jasper walked through the Bridge Fund offices, stopping to chat with staff and volunteers. The energy here was completely different from NextGen's corporate offices. People smiled genuinely, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They believed in what they were doing. As evening approached, Jasper found himself back at the Silver Spoon. He still came here occasionally, though. Now it felt different. Harold greeted him warmly, genuine warmth rather than calculated politeness. Mr. Montgomery, wonderful to see you. Your usual table? Actually, Harold, I'm here to pick up Claudia. She's finishing her shift soon. Harold smiled knowingly. Of course. She's just wrapping up. Can I offer you a drink while you wait? Jasper accepted and sat at the bar, observing the dinner service. Beverly came over during a lull, her face creasing in a warm smile. Look at you, she said affectionately. I remember when you first came in here, all anger and arrogance. Claudia really did a number on you. She saved me, Jasper said simply. She showed me that who I was wasn't who I had to be. Beverly patted his hand. That girl is special. I've worked here at 23 years and I've never met anyone quite like her. You hold on to her, you hear me? I'm trying. Question. 20 minutes later, Claudia emerged from the back, changed from her uniform into casual clothes. Her face lit up when she saw him, and Jasper felt his heart skip as it always did now when she smiled at him. You didn't have to pick me up, she said. I could have met you at the office. I wanted to. Besides, I have a question for you. They walked out into the cool evening air. Spring was turning to summer, and the city felt alive with possibility. Jasper led her to a nearby park, one of the small green spaces that made Manhattan livable. They sat on a bench overlooking a fountain, watching people walk by. Families, couples, individuals lost in thought, all of them living their own complex lives. So what's your question? Claudia asked. Jasper took a breath, suddenly nervous in a way he hadn't been since he was a teenager. The bridge fund is running smoothly. We have excellent staff, strong community support, and sustainable funding. We're making a real difference. We are, Claudia agreed, looking at him curiously. Over these 6 months, working with you, learning from you, seeing the world through your eyes, I've become someone I actually like. Someone I'm proud to be. Jasper, where is this going? He turned to face her fully. It's going toward me asking if you'd consider letting our partnership become something more. I'm not good at this. I haven't dated seriously in years because I was too focused on work. But Claudia, you've become the most important person in my life. You challenge me, inspire me, and make me want to be better every single day. Claudia's eyes shimmered with emotion. You know, this could complicate things. We work together. People already speculate. I know. And if you'd rather keep things professional, I'll respect that completely. But I had to ask, because I think I'm falling in love with you, and I didn't want to go another day without you knowing. A new beginning. Claudia was quiet for a long moment, her hand finding his. That night you first came to the restaurant, so arrogant and cruel, I went home feeling sorry for you. I thought, here's a man with everything and nothing at all. He doesn't know how poor he is. Jasper winced. Accurate assessment. But then you came back. You apologized. You listened. You changed. Not because you had to, but because you chose to. That takes real courage, Jasper. Most people never question the paths they're on. So is that a yes? She laughed, the sound like music. I've been waiting for you to figure out what we both already knew. Yes, it's a yes. I'm falling in love with you too, you formerly arrogant billionaire. He kissed her then, there in the park with the fountain behind them and the city lights beginning to glow in the gathering dusk. It felt like coming home, like finding something he didn't know he'd been searching for his entire life. Full circle 3 months later. Jasper and Claudia sat at his old table at the Silver Spoon, the one where their journey had begun. But everything was different now. They weren't CEO and waitress, billionaire and service worker. They were partners, equals. People who had found in each other something more valuable than money or status. Harold brought their meals personally, beaming at the couple who had become a favorite story among the staff. On the house tonight, he insisted. Special occasion. What's the occasion? Jasper asked. Amanda told me you're meeting your sister here tonight, bringing her to meet Claudia formally. The first time you've all dined together? That's worth celebrating. As they waited for Amanda to arrive, Jasper looked across the table at Claudia and marveled at how much had changed. His company was thriving under its new ethical framework. The bridge fund was expanding to other cities. He had reconnected with his sister and was building real friendships based on mutual respect rather than transactional relationships. What are you thinking? Claudia asked, noticing his expression. I'm thinking about what you said that first night. That the way you treat people who can do nothing for you reveals who you truly are. You were right. And thank you for caring enough to tell me the truth, even when I didn't want to hear it. You're welcome. Though technically, you needed to hear it more than want it. True, I was a disaster. You were. But you got better. She reached across the table and took his hand. We both did. I learned that it's okay to let people in, to accept help, to build something with someone instead of always doing everything alone. Amanda arrived then, embracing Jasper warmly before turning to Claudia. So you're the famous Claudia Rivers? The woman who tamed my impossible brother? I prefer to think I just reminded him of who he already was underneath all the armor, Claudia said, shaking Amanda's hand, as the three of them talked and laughed over dinner. Jasper felt a contentment he had never experienced before. Not the temporary high of closing a big deal or acquiring a company, but a deep, lasting sense of rightness, of being exactly where he was supposed to be, with exactly the people he was meant to be with, the true wealth later that night. Walking Claudia home through the quiet streets, Jasper said, You know what's funny? I used to measure my worth by my net worth. Every quarter, every year, calculating how much I'd gained or lost. Now I don't even think about it most days. What do you think about instead? How many families we helped this week? Whether Raymond's son got into that college? If Mrs. Patterson's daughter is doing better after her surgery? Real things. Human things. Claudia squeezed his hand. My grandmother would have liked you. The current you, I mean. She always said the best people are the ones who've been broken and put themselves back together stronger and kinder. I had a good teacher. They stopped in front of Claudia's building. The same modest place where she had lived when they first met. She could afford to move now, but she chose to stay, to remain part of the community she served. Come up? She asked. I made that stew you like. I'd love to. As they climbed the stairs together, Jasper reflected on the journey. 6 months ago, he would have scoffed at the idea that the most valuable thing in his life would be walking up 3 flights of stairs to eat homemade stew in a modest apartment with a woman who had once been his waitress, but that younger, angrier version of himself hadn't understood what Claudia had known all along, that wealth wasn't about money. It was about purpose, connection, and love. It was about making a difference in the world. One person, one family, one community at a time. The final truth, they ate dinner on Claudia's small balcony, looking out over the neighborhood. Music drifted from nearby apartments. Children played in the street below. Life, real and messy and beautiful, happened all around them. Do you ever regret it? Claudia asked. Giving up the ruthless businessman persona, restructuring the company, giving away so much money. Jasper didn't hesitate. Not for a second. I have less money and more life. That's a trade I'd make every single time, even knowing that some people think you've gone soft. That you're naive for believing business can be ethical, especially knowing that, because every time someone says it can't be done, we prove them wrong. Every business we help start, every family we lift up, every person who breaks out of the cycle of poverty, that's proof that another way is possible. Claudia smiled. That beautiful smile that had first made him question everything. You sound like someone who learned that money and power are just tools. It's what you build with them that matters. I had an excellent teacher, Jasper said again. A wise woman who saw through my expensive suits and fancy cars to the scared, empty person underneath, and who cared enough to show me a better way. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set over the city, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Jasper thought about that rainy night at the Silver Spoon, how angry and arrogant he had been, how close he had come to staying on that path forever. One person had changed everything. One waitress with wisdom beyond her years and courage beyond her station had held up a mirror and refused to let him look away, and in doing so, she hadn't just changed his life. She had saved at the beginning. I love you, Jasper said quietly. I love you too, Claudia replied. Even though you still overcook pasta, he laughed, pulling her close. Below them, the city hummed with life. Behind them, in Claudia's small apartment, was everything that truly mattered. Tomorrow, they would return to the Bridge Fund, to the work of building a more just world. But tonight, they simply existed in this moment. 2 people who had found each other against all odds. A billionaire who had learned that true wealth couldn't be counted in dollars, and a waitress whose wisdom had humbled him completely. Together, they were building something more valuable than any empire. They were building a life of purpose, meaning, and love. A life where success was measured not in profit margins, but in lives changed. Not in power accumulated, but in community strengthened. Jasper had once thought he had everything. Now he knew he had been poor beyond measure, but he was poor no longer, not in any way that mattered.